Alright, we're getting ready to go. Hello. I think we are set.
Greetings, everyone. Hope
Hopefully the stream's
everybody.
working well. I had to reset all the settings, so just let me
Yeah, I
know.
always struggle to get the stream going, it seems.
Streaming is a hassle.
Indeed. Anyways, today we're here rather than we originally planned on doing, which was going over the end of the year anime. But given how 2020 turned out, we decided we'd do something else entirely different.
Yeah, we could have just talked about anime, but like I was going through like my anime list and I realized I watched like 30 anime this year, and that might seem like a lot. That might seem like a lot, but half of it was Chinese donghua, so it wasn't even technically anime that I watched. And
Yeah,
it just didn't feel right to talk about like, oh, let's rate the best show of the year.
or
Let's
even the
talk about the best
seasons.
characters, the best opening, and the best season because like the pandemic happened and it kind of ruined everything, and like it just was a mess. I
Yeah,
don't
it
know.
was. We might try doing that like some other time though, but for this
Yeah.
year, it's kind of a wash. Anyways, but
I
what
think
we
we should do future predictions.
yeah, we might do that at the end.
Hey, Alex. Oh, do you mind, Alex, sharing this live stream and the Discord? I kind of forgot.
Yeah, good point. Anyways, Calliope and I have been watching several Chinese action movies.
We
Um,
watched Wolf Warriors 1 and 2. We watched the 800, and I watched Operation Red Sea and
I
Winter watched
watched
some of it.
30 I watched like 30 minutes of it.
Yeah.
But I got a taste of it. Like till you said it goes off the rails, but
Yeah, it goes crazy.
we'll
It's a
get
crazy
there.
action movie.
We'll get there. Yeah, so we wanted to talk about these movies and basically like, analyze them and also look at like the
We're
recent
obviously not going to be able to avoid the quote unquote Wolf Warrior diplomacy,
yeah, we're going to be
and
talking
that
about that.
drama. But we actually do want to discuss the movies that made this term so popular to begin with, because like
Yes.
they're good movies and no one really understands what they're doing.
Yeah, and
we
we want
we
to
watched like a renegade cut video where he tries to analyze Wolf Warrior and he absolutely fails. Like he falls flat on his
completely.
face. Like
It's very unfortunate. Like
it's like trying to equivocate Western imperialism with like some made up Chinese imperialism that doesn't exist.
yeah,
There's no
as well as
equivalency there.
yeah, we'll get to that. We'll get to that. That's kind of the stuff we wanted to address though. It's what we're here to talk about.
Thank you, Alex.
All right.
I do want to state beforehand though that I'm now an editor for Pasas Pac-Man Animarchy. If you haven't seen, so if you want like more like less political anime videos, go check out his video. They still are
Yeah.
left leaning anime videos, but it'll be a
Yeah.
fun time. And I think we'll be doing more Weeb Revolution live streams because I'll be editing for him, and we can be more political on this channel, and it'll be fun.
Yeah, it's a bit easier that way. Less editing and whatnot. So perhaps we should start with the movie that this whole term has come from, which is the 2015 movie Wolf Warrior. Calliope, it's been a while since I've seen this movie. Do you want to go on with the plot
uh,
generally?
I'm trying to figure out something wrong with the stream, but
Oh,
yeah,
really?
yeah, it's kind of just like I made like a setup and it's frozen.
Oh, I see.
Oh, there we go. I fixed it.
It's fixed. Okay.
Well,
Yeah,
the
Wolf
plot of the
Warrior.
movie starts off with this. The main character is called Lang Feng, and he is the Wolf Warrior.
Yes, he's part of like a very well trained like military unit, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's in the military.
The movie starts and
Um,
they're breaking down like this drug cartel, and they killed like the main suspect, who like took a civilian hostage. And contrary to belief, like Lang Fang kind of acts out of orders because he puts his like own he puts the civilian at risk in this situation, and he gets militarily prosecuted. So like
yeah.
he makes mistakes and is kind of naive, but like things just like work out for him initially.
Sort of like Top Gun, like
Maverick
yeah,
from
you're
Top
in
Gun.
over your head, son. I can't remember what that's actually from.
That's from a bunch of movies.
Right?
It's like it's a
there's some of the
common
movies where
trope.
it's like, yeah, you're coming in hot, kid. You think you're all that, and you're not, son.
It's like a basic action movie trope, really. And
Yeah.
like honestly, it's kind of the setup of at least the Wolf Warrior movies. Is, like they're basically the plot of like every like standard action movie with big budgets essentially. Do you agree with me on that?
Yeah, the first movie is pretty like straightforward because I mean we don't need to get into too many details here. It's just a fun
The
action
second
movie.
one, I feel, gets into more interesting
Oh
stuff.
yeah, the
Yeah.
second one takes place not in in China, but it takes place in Africa. So
Yeah,
we
and
have
that's
like
really important to like
we have actual
the
diplomacy, like
entire
geopolitics to
plot.
analyze there.
Even in the first one, we can talk about more of the first one right now. Is like it's basically like the Chinese government's trying to crack down on this like drug dealer guy who is trying to make this deadly virus that targets Chinese people.
It's really hilarious because I don't know what to think about this specifically because there was that whole meme where like
in particular
there was the meme where it's like, oh, the Chinese are gonna make the virus to kill white people, but like here it's inverse, strangely.
Yes. Well, not so strangely when we consider that China is a country that has been colonized by these Western powers. The Opium Wars, when they like fed drugs all in to keep the entire population in China.
Yeah, you're right.
Down.
It's more of a reference to like that colonialism and stuff because
explicitly
because
it's
like this
pharmaceutical
drug
company
cartel
doing
is
this.
from like a foreign
nation.
It's like entering China illegally and trying to distribute these drugs. And it's just kind of ramped up to like, oh, this is a dangerous virus.
Yeah.
That's being manufactured.
It's like taken to like the literal.
It's exaggerated, which is fine since it's a movie.
Exaggeration of that's the whole point of the movie, and also throughout the movie they're like concerned about like things being out of their sovereignty, and being unable to like interfere with them. Because they're like
it's interesting how like one of the plot points of this movie is that as soon as the guy crosses the border, the main antagonist, it's like they gotta put their hands up, they gotta turn around, they can't interfere because that'd be breaking international law. So they can't break international law. That'd be bad.
Yeah,
you can't do that. They
have
to respect it.
Plot point
They gotta respect it. So they have a strict time limit. As long as these drug cartels are in China, in their sovereignty, they can like.
Take action against them.
Yeah, take action.
And arrest him. Exactly. Like, I think the whole thing of the movie is, it's obviously like, just like your typical like high budget action movie that you get in like, from like the U.S. or Korea or wherever, Japan.
I do want to mention though, if this was a U.S. action film, there'd be no mention of international law. It'd just be like, let's go get 'em, boys.
Yeah, that's a very common thing in all like American and like generally Western movies. Is there's no concept of like this overarching like international
the
like
U.S. just
community.
doesn't respect it at all. There is no respect to international law.
They don't care about other countries' sovereignty. They don't care about like being committed to non-interference in like other countries' like political situations, or just like, oh, there's a terrorist, like we're just gonna drone strike him or like go after him no matter where he is, like no matter whose jurisdiction they're under. It's like no, this is our job. Nobody else can do it. very much in the way that the U.S. in particular, view itself as like the world police. It's like it's really interesting the contrast in like most of these movies between their concern over like the international community versus the typical what we normally see in these sorts of films.
Yeah.
I think that ties deeply into Wolf Warrior 2 as well, since that takes place completely outside of the borders of China.
Yeah, let's talk about that movie.
Yeah, there's a lot to talk about there. So, as the film opens, Lang Fang, our main character, gets reprimanded and kicked out of the military after he kicks a landlord.
Oh my god,
Yeah.
I forgot about this. This
Yes,
scene was
this
great.
is how the movie starts.
Oh my god, we're literally like throwing like a landlord, like breaking a car like windshield or something.
He smashes him
slamming
like
against
through
it.
a car window. Yes, he like smashes him through a car window for
'Cause, like,
being
yeah.
inconsiderate to his tenants and like raising the rent and just being like.
Huh, where have we seen landlords debating when to kick out their tenants? Huh, we never seen that in the United States.
Never. It'll never happen either. Don't worry about it, you guys. We're all good.
Yeah, we got $600 to avoid
We'll
eviction.
be fine. We'll be fine. We just need to put that away in our stock portfolios. We'll be fine.
Yeah, what a great
give it
opening
up.
film. Just slamming a landlord trying to like evict tenants, and I think he was like literally trying to like destroy,
He was.
demolish the house.
He was like trying to demolish like their home, like with like a wrecking ball or something.
Immediately BTFO'd.
Yeah.
But unfortunately,
Unfortunately-
yeah, Lang Fang, this was a violation, and yeah.
Yeah. Because, yeah, he's found to be out of line, and he has his military privileges revoked. He gets punished. I believe he gets court-martialed or something. Something like that. But anyways, he's basically become a civilian at this point. But a civilian with his...
Which is
know,
important for this film, since
yes, it is.
he will
But
be
essentially...
in Africa, and
Yeah, he travels to Africa, and he befriends like some people who live in the area. You know, he starts interacting with all the locals. You know, it's pretty chill at first.
yeah, there's like a drinking competition. That was wild.
Yeah, it's just some good fun, you know. So he's basically this civilian who, with extreme military training. He is the Wolf Warrior after all. So, essentially, the country is in political turmoil, as there's like a group of rebels that are like waging war against the government, as well as like a deadly infectious disease which is like ravaging the civilian
I'm pretty
population.
sure the infectious disease is a reference to Ebola, right?
Yeah, it seems to be. It's likely that it is.
Yeah.
And if we go off the whole opium war thing from the first movie, it makes sense that it would be that. Especially considering who the villains end up being. So, as we see in the movie, actually early on, I do believe we find out that China has like this country's part of the Belt and Road Initiative. So this this is explicitly shown in the movie. That
Do they
China has,
I don't think they mentioned the BRI, right? They don't
No,
mention
they
it, but they
don't.
have,
They don't
they
mention
have
it.
Chinese factories and stuff.
Yeah,
and
but they
this-
have the Chinese fact. That's what I meant. It's not referenced by name, but it's like heavily implied in the movie, because there's like Chinese like people working at all these factories and whatnot, and it's like they're developing their infrastructure and like their productive forces, as it
Yeah,
were.
it's representing like the relations between China and Africa and China's aid programs to China. In
Yeah.
supplying,
It's very
infrastructure.
friendly
And
like
even medical assistance, because the doctor trying to cure this infectious disease is like Chinese, I think.
Dr. Chen. Yeah,
Dr. Chen.
yeah, I'm pretty sure. I believe the other doctor, who's like the main character, the other main character essentially. I think she's like a Chinese American person. Doctor, I mean. But yeah, Dr. Chen. it's unfortunate what happens to him, as he's just trying to help these people cure this like infectious disease. So essentially, when the movie really gets going, like the rebels start attacking, they like the entire city, and Long Fong and like his friend that he made there, who's like a little kid, are basically trying to get to the Chinese embassy to avoid this entire like political coup that's going on, and like just escape to safety. Like that's pretty much where the action of the movie starts. Yeah. And even the reactionary forces that are like leading this coup like have a fear of China. Like even they're like the person who they want to make leader wants to maintain normal like relations with China, so they can't like harm the Chinese citizens and whatnot. It's which when you think about it, makes a lot of sense. As even Renegade kept pointed out in his video, they mentioned that China is like a UN member. It's like an important part of the security apparatus.
Yeah. That's a more important for Operation Red Sea, I think. That
Yeah.
But we'll get into that later.
Yeah, so essentially what happens is they make it to the Chinese embassy. There's a whole reactionary coup. The president ends up getting like executed on TV. It's a whole mess.
It's a whole shit show sponsored by the National Endowment for Democracy, probably.
Yes, as it turns out, the reactionaries are the instigators, but they're actually working very closely with, and essentially by the end of the movie, for is this like European American like group of private military contractors, like who've been hired to assist them carry out this coup, overthrow the president, and obtain the cure for the deadly disease. As they say in the movie, whoever has the cure like has the most power in the country. So
interesting.
Yes, very interesting.
It's crazy how these movies, it's like not referencing COVID-19 or anything. It's talking about Ebola, but like everything applies to now. Like nothing really changed.
It's
just a different disease, and
yeah. And it's devastating low-income communities in like poor countries, especially hard. Like, and it's like, look at now, and it's like, well, I mean, it's pretty much the same case now. So it's interesting how that like lines up. So as the movie goes on, basically, Long Fong, because he's a civilian, he's able to fight against these reactionary terrorists who are like attacking, like the key government areas and whatnot, obtaining like power and whatnot. So basically, they go and try to rescue the doctor who's trying to make the cure, because he's also like a Chinese citizen, and they're trying to make a cure for this deadly disease. Unfortunately, there was a bit of a mix-up, and Dr. Chen gets murdered by the mercenaries, which actually really pisses off the coup, coup government. Hilariously enough, because they're like, "You just killed Dr. Chen, like he was my biggest bargaining chip." Like, fortunately or unfortunately for them, it turns out the cure can be manufactured from this little girl that Dr. Chen was like. I believe he adopted her as well. It doesn't really go too much into that in the movie, because it's more focused on like the action and whatnot, obviously. But yeah, as the movie goes on, they're getting attacked by these like terrorists and this PMC group of like elite military contractors who are honestly like just cause like havoc and destruction wherever they go. Honestly,
yeah, as private military companies do, which are
like,
always the new trend for imperialism. It's like, oh, we're pulling out our military,
And then we're just gonna put in contractors.
We're just privatizing, our military to the point where
It's leased
they're now
out.
private contractors instead. That's pulling out.
Yeah. Side note, it's interesting how that's a thing. Like, if you pay attention, you'll notice that they sometimes call these people military contractors, and it's like, oh, somebody who's a military contractor got killed in like Afghanistan. It's like, oh, what a tragedy. And it's like, this person was just a mercenary hired like to like carry out imperialism. It's like,
yeah, they're making it sound like, oh, it's just a construction worker that we hire to build fortifications, and it's like,
no,
had a
it's
gun.
a bloodthirsty mercenary who wants to murder people in like poorer countries. That's what that means. If they were a contractor, that's what that means in this case.
Think of the Australian guy.
Yeah, we'll get into that.
Oh, yeah, we'll get into
Think of the
that.
Australian-
But yes, think of the Australian guy when we were talking about these contractors. Anyways, as the movie goes on, they fight with this group. They meet up at a factory. This is interesting. And they basically organize the factory with the help of like the soldier from China who's stationed there and the manager. Another interesting thing about
it's interesting how this plays out, because like
yeah.
at first it seems kind of negative, because like I think the manager's like saying we're going to take all the Chinese workers and leave because this is a dangerous situation, like there's a civil war going on.
Yeah.
But then they come to the conclusion that like they should stay because obviously all the other workers there who are just African should, like they should stay
They need to
and
be
wait for
protected, too.
evacuation for all of them instead of just
rather than just
Chinese.
the Chinese. Yeah, it's
And
very
I think that's
interesting how
important
it
because I've been reading this book on like it's called The Dragon's Gift: The True Story of China in Africa, and I think it like depicts like because China's sending their like experts and like even private businesses for these industries, and most of them are run by like Chinese workers and managers, but
yeah.
I think it's important to note that like these Chinese managers aren't like doing. It's not a debt trap. It's giving them necessary infrastructure.
Infrastructure and like labor capabilities. Like these are like skilled doctors and people who are like are able to help and like teach like skills to like the other workers. Like that's basically what they're there for.
So there is some conflict because, like I said, the managers wanted to leave with only themselves, but they come to the conclusion that they should protect all of the workers there.
Yeah, exactly. And they end up like basically getting all the the ones that can fight like ready to like defend themselves because the private military contractors are coming after them, essentially. And that leads into that whole confrontation with the drones and like the other soldiers, where basically they're able to like take out the drones and like fight back against the terrorist forces using like makeshift like equipment and whatnot. Like one guy like he doesn't have like the real gun at one point. Like, it's it's a pretty...
There was like a naive like young Chinese guy there, and he had an airsoft gun or something.
He's like a hotshot young Chinese soldier there, and he had an airsoft gun, but he managed to trick one of the guys with it because it looked real enough. It's like this fun action scene in which they managed to take out the drones, like using like a fire hose and like just like their ingenuity and whatnot. And I believe it's at that point that it gets called off because the leader of the coup forces is like, "What the hell are you guys doing?" Like
they're just making a mess of things. Like, they're just
yeah, exactly. He's just making it. They're making a huge fucking mess. So of course, the military contractor leader, I believe his name's like Big Daddy or something, promptly murders that guy, and he like turns to another guy, and he's like, "All right, you want to be in charge now?" And he's like, looks at him like fearfully, and he's like, "Okay." He's like, "All right, you'll be king of this country." Just this random soldier. Like, it's like I can't see this backfiring in any way. But even he's still like apprehensive about like attacking like the Chinese later on in the movie as well. But anyways, the PMC basically takes control at that point, and they're just like, we're gonna get this cure. It's like, screw everything else. Like, we don't care. There's like a UN chopper coming to rescue them. And of course, the military contractors, they don't care. They like open fire on it anyways. Um Yeah, there's. Do you want to get more into it, Calliope? Or should we, like, just kind of get through?
Yeah, I think we should just get through it because the rest of it's just an action film, like tanks rolling.
Yeah.
This one's way wilder than the first one. Like the first one was like hand-to-hand fights, and that was kind of it. It was
this one has, like,
gunfights. This one has tanks,
battles.
car chases.
Yeah, there's a really long car chase, like in the middle of the movie, where he's just being chased on like motorcycles and all this stuff. Yeah, the first movie was way more like action and like just like minor like skirmishes with people. The second movie
And
really
I think this one just ends with like, you know, the private military has some tanks, and this is, I think, when China actually steps in, because from until this point it was literally just Ling Fang
and like
acting
a
on
few
his
others.
own. And a few others acting on their own. But the private military obviously crossed the line. They probably crossed international law, so that's
they attacked a UN helicopter.
They attacked a UN helicopter. That's when the movie kind of ends, because China's like, okay, we'll just blow up their private military tanks.
Yeah, they basically like attacked them, with airstrikes.
So it's like a lot like the first movie, where it's like, please don't mess with China, okay? Please don't.
Yeah, and the thing was, throughout the entire movie, they were very patient with them, even as they like went on like these.
No international law was broken by China in this movie. No, take note. Take note.
Right, exactly. So basically, yeah, it's China finally intervenes at the end. After they've really crossed the line. Let's just put it like that. And like basically the coup forces are pretty much defeated, and they leave you like, oh, maybe there'll be a Wolf Warrior 3, essentially.
Yeah, that's a huge setup. So I'm excited for that movie.
Yeah, assuming that like didn't die from COVID like everything else has. Anyways, which movie do you want to move to next? Red Sea or
Well, I'll just briefly
800?
talk about Operation Red Sea. I also recommend it. It goes way off the rails, though.
Yeah, he said it's similar to Wolf Warrior 2. Yeah.
Yeah, this one. While Wolf Warrior 2 was like an unspecified country in Africa, we don't know
Red Sea
where it was.
takes place in Yemen.
Red Sea is based on like this evacuation of Yemen, of Chinese citizens, I think, who were in Yemen at the time when this.
Yeah, they evacuated quite a few.
Coup was happening. I don't really know.
There was
the
like a civil war
of what was happening. Yeah, it was a civil war, and it's just portraying the PLA as pretty patriotic, evacuating citizens, and showing the disasters of this civil war in Yemen, because it's being waged by like terrorists who have no concern for civilians or anyone. And I think there's another like private contractor in this. There's like this company.
Probably.
And there's this journalist like trying to investigate them for like making bombs. So,
oh yeah, I did see that in the beginning. There's this investigative journalist trying to figure out what's going on.
Yeah. So it seems pretty standard at first. Like, oh, they're just sending in one squad. Like, they gotta respect international law, so that's all they have. They don't have more than one
military
warship.
Force.
They have like one ship, and that's it. That's all they can supply to this operation, this quick evacuation. And that's literally the only goal, is evacuate. And then it becomes, oh, we need to stop this antagonist, and that's when it goes crazy. It goes from evacuating people at the embassy, the Chinese embassy, to we need to kill this person who's making dirty bombs. We need to kill that person. And that's a whole mess. It's a huge action scene for like an hour and a half. It's crazy.
Yeah, I only got to the part where they were evacuating, but they were like getting indiscriminately like murdered by these like terrorists.
But
like,
that's all I want to say. I just think it's Um, yeah, so China makes pro-Chinese action movies in the same way America does, and conservatives are triggered somehow, as Mo Black. And
Yeah, that's right.
they do make action movies, like, it does feel like the Hollywood style of, like, how the
It
action works.
does.
And Wolf Warrior 2.
Wolf Warrior 2 especially
But
feels
what
like
me and Soviet are making note of is it respects, like, international law, which you don't usually see in American movies. Like, there's no acknowledgement of the international community or anything.
yeah, that's actually a good point that I wanted to talk about before we
But
talk
like the
about
techniques
800.
are Hollywood, so it does feel like I'd say an American action
Yeah.
movie sometimes.
It does. They do. Actually, I want to talk about this now that it's been brought up, since we were gonna talk about that anyways. Is like how China like perceives itself in these movies. I suppose the 800's a little different, as you know, right? You know what
Hello,
I'm
JT.
getting at, right?
Oh, the
What?
800's different because it's a historical war
Like,
movie.
specifically about the movies Red Sea and the Wolf Warrior films.
Oh, but what I was going to tie off with Red Sea is it's a very clearly anti-war movie. Yeah, it's
Yeah, it
very
portrays war
unlike
pretty
Wolf
horrifically.
Warrior. Unlike Wolf Warrior, which is
It's more
it's a bit
standard
different from
action
Wolf
movie.
Warrior because this is like an anti-terrorist movie, Operation Red Sea, more so.
Yeah,
like there's
it's
this one
pretty
scene
brutal
where
from what I
there's
saw.
this one scene where like this person is like in Yemen is like tied into a car, is like his own child's like held at gunpoint and like he's like told like you need to blow it up in attacking the Chinese or the security forces. It is
Yikes.
brutal. It's brutal.
Yeah.
And you know the Chinese soldier is portrayed as heroically because he risked his own life defusing the bomb. Like that's how much he cares for saving this person's life.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, it's
there's a lot of brutal scenes. This Operation Red Sea, unlike Wolf Warrior, is really brutal.
yeah.
There's just a lot of gore but it's incredibly anti-war in that regard because it's heroic. Like I'm pretty sure the squad in Operation Red Sea, like every one of them, like develops PTSD like on screen. So
Wow.
yeah,
Damn, I gotta finish that movie.
it's
Yeah.
wild.
Yeah, it sounds pretty
What I
wild.
like about it is you have like an entire squad of characters, and they're decently developed for an action film.
Yeah, it's like
They
2
have their
hours
like
and
little
18
quirks that come back
minutes. Yeah.
later. I don't exactly remember any of their names, but like for an action movie, it just works.
Yeah, it's nice when you have like little developed. Even like the Wolf Warrior movies kind of had like some like fleshed out little characters, like the older military
Nick.
guy in the second one.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah. China portrays itself as like this like kind of like peaceful, non-interventionist country in these films. I would say, rather than like trying
Every
to,
one
like,
of these films we've watched is like they don't want to like cross their boundaries. Like they clearly know that.
they don't want to interfere like in like these countries like they don't do anything after like the president.
They're not trying to like take a side against the coup. They're just trying to protect like their national interests. And obviously they don't like seeing civilians killed.
Yeah,
like
it's national
that's just bad. Like that's just horrible. That's portrayed as negatively,
Yeah,
but like
they're
there's
looking
only
at
so
their-
much China can do. It's
Yeah. Because like it's really emphasized in these movies where like they like consider themselves part of this international like order, like not just like this wrecking ball that comes in. It's like, oh, we're just gonna topple this guy and kill this guy. Like there's just so many like American movies that do that.
yeah.
Like I'm just thinking of this one scene in Air Force One where like this guy, I believe, like I think they say that he's like a communist. I don't remember this movie too well, but I do remember the part where like he's getting like released from jail, and then like they're like they don't have the president of the United States hostage anymore. So then, like, the Americans, like, immediately gun this guy down, and it's, like, this, like, yeah, he just gets, like, brutally murdered. Like, it's, like, a hail of gunfire. Like, as he's, like, thinks he's getting released from prison, and it's, like, ugh. It's offensive. It's, like, and that's not the only movie that does that, but,
And,
yes.
Yeah. every like war America's involved in, there's gonna be some film about it and portraying it as like heroic. When
Yeah, for every like one anti-Vietnam War movie, there's like 10 that's like, look at how great these soldiers are, like risking their lives. And even more in recent times now, it's become, look at these brave contractors risking their lives. like look at these poor like mercenaries. It's they're like risking their lives, waging wars for corporations. What's swell, folks? Everybody, what's swell, folks? Anyways, there's some other stuff we wanted to get into, but let's talk about the 800 because this was a very different movie from the other movies we watched.
Yeah, this is this year, 2020. This was like the highest grossing box office
the highest grossing
film,
movie.
800, for obvious reasons. One being like everyone else was closing their box offices to begin with, so China's only like the only place airing movies at this point, really. And the 800 was just a great film to begin with, so I'm not surprised.
It's a really good movie. It's really dark.
You can find it on YouTube.
Vicious.
It's like the 800 Babai or something.
Yeah, I didn't watch all Red Sea, but I would recommend these movies. The 800 especially is very interesting because the 800, for one thing, takes place.
Well, I'll talk about the setting. It takes place in Shanghai during, I think, 1930s.
It's late 1930s.
During the Second Sino-Japanese War.
I think it's like
and
37 or 38.
In a warehouse. I forget what the warehouse is named. But the warehouse is right next to some Western concessions. Like, part of Shanghai was concessioned off to, Europe, basically.
Yeah.
And it's an interesting setting, because this is a historical movie. It's obviously going to exaggerate some war details, because
it's the same thing with
it specifically states that it's called 800, but like I think there are only like 300 soldiers there in reality. And
it's an exaggeration of what actually happened.
But what was happening is they're in the warehouse across like the river, and the concessions filled with Chinese people and Western powers who are spectating this war are all watching these battles happening. They're watching like Japan, the Japanese
and the
assault
Chinese
this
forces.
Warehouse, and
yeah,
it's wild that this happens.
Yeah, they're like
in plain sight of civilians.
Yeah, there's like civilians watching this whole thing go down, and like as it goes on, a lot of civilians, like the Chinese ones in particular, are like very sympathetic, and like they're like, look at how brave these people are. Like,
I'm pretty sure like historically it was like a turning moment where it really boosted morale, because the morale, what the Japanese did was horrible and horrendous, and it was a bleak war.
It was a very grim, gruesome, like bloody conflict.
Because it's important to note that like Shanghai was kind of razed by the Japanese at this point, and because this warehouse was so close to these concessions, they couldn't use mustard gas, which I think they were using elsewhere in their fight. So this like awful
it would have
weapon
prompted an international like incident they didn't want to cause.
So it's a weird dynamic for an action film, which makes it like, so intense. And you have the characters you're following who are like these young boys. Like, I think it's anti-war in this way, because like they don't want to be here. They were forced in this situation, but they have to do their duty here.
They have to make
protect
do
the nation,
with, like,
because they're under attack. They're
under attack
under
by the
siege.
Japanese Imperial Army. Like this was
multiple times, like they try to like escape because they have the concessions like right there. This like bright, beautiful city of civilian life.
But they're stuck in this brutal, bloody battle. Like and they're like trying to negotiate as well. Like they're like escape out of there. Throughout,
I think for multiple reasons they're just not allowed to like cross the bridge into this area because like that would anger the Japanese imperialists.
Yeah, I mean, when they do go, they still get shot at with machine gun fire. It's pretty brutal. Like the whole movie, like there's a lot of There's so many characters in it. And some of them die like absolutely gruesome deaths. Like, I don't want to get into too many details on that, but I'll just say rather gruesome stuff happens. But it's like this brutal movie of them like fighting against the Japanese invading army. And even towards the end of the movie, they've put up like such a fight that the Japanese general like wants to like go out and like talk with their commander and stuff. Even though they know that this could be a huge risk to them. And when they finally do retreat, they like retreat because they know they're going to shoot at them, even though that's like a horrible like war crime, essentially.
Yeah,
but they like,
we've seen in this movie that the Japanese don't really care. Yeah,
yeah,
commit war crimes and not apologize.
Yeah, I like, you know, we got to think about Imperial Japan and like, you know, how they really function, especially when they were like conquering parts of Asia, you know, Korea, Vietnam. Like this is the kind of brutal stuff that they did. So it doesn't whitewash it really. I mean, it is kind of, you know, a fictionalized. It's a good film.
I think this is the best one we watched, honestly.
I think so too. I think this is the best film.
It doesn't have the same like contemporary context where, like it.
It has a very different. Okay, another part of the movie that I neglected to mention is that because this is during like the Century of Humiliation, it's like the tail end of that. It's 1937. I just looked it up. So the Chinese government at this point is like, they say in the movie as well that like our government's like sick and like corrupted, like, and we need to like do something to like make it better so that it can protect the entire country. And like it's kind of like it sets it up kind of as a prelude for like the actual revolution that would later go on in China.
You don't think they'll make a sequel, do you?
But like cool. It's this.
Yeah, because we're following
the seeds.
Republic of China troops, so it's interesting that like this, because obviously the Republic of China lost the Civil War with the Communist Party, but still like we're having this unifying film that's patriotic for China, even though the ROC lost.
Yeah, and they criticize the government very heavily, like towards the end of the film. Like they like point out its flaws and inability to like fight back effectively. Like it's pretty blunt about it. And like I got the feeling in watching the movie at the end where it's like this is like laying the seeds for them to like go forward and like create a new government that actually, you know, serves the people of China at the end after this grim and like bloody fighting.
Yeah, that's definitely true.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
like at that point there didn't seem to be much hope until like that turning moment. So.
Yeah. I also agree. I think this is probably the best film of the ones we talked about. They're all fun.
It has the best action by far. It has the coolest like context because it's like a real event, though exaggerated.
Yeah, very exaggerated, but it's still pretty gritty. And like fairly realistic.
And it has the most feels. It honestly has the most feels. Like you might feel something watching how brutal
it is. The
While
other one are more like
Operation Red Sea is like really gory. It's probably the most actiony of the films, but it's so over the top. It's crazy. It doesn't have the feels the same way.
Yeah, the 800 definitely had.
And Wolf Warrior.
Like you cared about those characters.
Wolf Warrior you need to watch too, but it's it's a one guy kind of movie.
Mostly, it's like one guy and a couple friends. Like, it's like he works with various other people throughout the movies, but it's more of like a typical Hollywood action story, I would say, to describe. I would recommend these movies though, even though I haven't finished Operation Red Sea. I did watch the other three, and I definitely recommend them.
They're fun. You're not going to get better action movies anywhere else.
and it's way they do have a way different feel, even though like they're using a lot of the same tech. Like like Wolf Warrior sometimes does feel like a Hollywood movie, but like the context and like the way the characters are presented feels very different because it's like from a different culture,
You
obviously.
feel the camaraderie in the first Wolf Warriors, and it's amazing.
And yeah, and I also liked in the movies as well, and I assume this is like a cultural thing in China, is that they like when they're in foreign countries and they like meet somebody else from China, they always call them like brother or something, like to show like comradely support or whatnot. You know what I'm talking about
Yeah,
in the
yeah,
movie? Yeah,
that is
yeah.
true.
I thought that was an interesting like cultural thing that I picked up on. Because like a lot of other people from other
Yeah,
countries don't really.
that's just like casual. You refer to friends
Yeah,
as family, just normal.
yeah. It's a very different feel. So,
But I guess we're done talking about these movies. Now we can talk about the whole
well, we can't.
context of Wolf
Yeah.
Warrior diplomacy. If you want to get into that.
Yes. Yes. This has been a term that's been growing in use for, especially in recent months. The term was popularized by a CNN story talking about the Wolf Warrior, quote unquote Wolf Warrior diplomacy in regards to China having officials and whatnot on like Twitter and wherever being more bold about their criticism of the U.S. and its domestic and foreign policy. This particularly as the George Floyd protests gained more and more traction. Essentially, what this refers to is them. It's funny because they use a similar tactic against the Soviet Union. um,
Yes, we do have Razor as in the background because we thought it'd be fun.
yeah,
We're doing this live stream so we can stall for the Genshin Impact update to come out and then
of
go do that.
course,
Yeah,
of course.
that's all this live stream is here for, is to waste time for the Genshin
No, it's
Impact
to be
update.
informative as well. You can't fool me. But yeah, it's. I've been reading all these articles to brush up on this, right? And basically, all these people are referring to this Wolf Warrior diplomacy as like these Chinese diplomats like being mean towards like the U.S. and the West in general and its puppets, like Australia. We'll get into that in a bit. um, and they're saying that China is doing these like provocative actions, like by pointing out that like
Hypocrisy and it's important to note that like they're portraying these quote unquote wolf warriors as like being aggressive, but like they're actually acting in defense of attacks thrown at them by
yeah,
these puppets in the U.S.
exactly. It's yeah. So this refers to the film. I believe they called it this Wolf Warrior specifically because people can look at Wolf Warrior and be like, oh, this is like a Chinese like quote unquote nationalist film, right? Like it portrays China like being powerful, like, and it was I think
Oh no, third world countries rising up, shaking the shackles of imperialism. Boy, man, the left comes, they're gonna hate this.
I think they chose the term because I believe Wolf Warrior 2 was like one of the highest grossing films, like 2018 or whatever year it came out.
I believe
And
it.
it's just kind of like one of those terms that they've tried to like associate like this negative thing with, this negative connotation.
We have the CGTN article that just like came out today or something, right?
Yeah, it just came out
Yep.
like today.
Let's see. Wait, do I have window capture? Okay, I'll move that up here. But I like how this article points out like the West has been applying this term. They've been imposing it upon these diplomats and other Chinese people like defending themselves and calling them wolf warriors. But I do like how it says like that's it's bad in that way, like the wolf quote unquote wolf warriors. But I like how it states that like this could be a word to embrace.
Yeah, that's
to
what he says at the
exploit
end of the
infamy
article.
And using the term in a positive way could divert their attention to arguments in China's favor. And that's interesting to talk about because like we said, these wolf warrior movies are just pretty good in general. So there's nothing to be ashamed of there. It's just the fact that like you pointed out that like CNN invented using this term against
to describe
Chinese diplomats.
Yes. Another thing they call this, and this ties into the whole Russia thing, right? And they try and tie it back to Russia, like as well, is the Russian troll farms and that kind of stuff, like how there were these like Russian trolls and all that kind of stuff, and they basically did this to spread
Everything's about
anti-Russian
Russian
hysteria.
bots and then Mao. It's that's all it goes back to, honestly, a lot of the time.
So, and a lot of these people who are like writing these articles about this quote unquote wolf warrior diplomacy on the West End are also saying that they're like all basically they're trolling like the West. Like, here's this person wrote an entire article, and here's what they say.
Actually, let me just pull up a tweet real quick, just to show you the depravity of the West here and their hypocrisy about like how they're trolling us. We'll show you what they mean. Let me pull up a Chen Weihua tweet. Which one is it? I thought I would have it quicker, but I don't. I don't.
You still looking for it?
We'll just pull up this one. I was thinking of a different one. I had a different one in mind, but this works well enough.
Nice.
It's Nigel Farage saying Christmas is canceled. Thank you, China. Like blaming this like the Chinese virus, that kind of rhetoric. And Chen Weihua, the quote-unquote wolf warrior he will be referred to as, is just like wear a mask and stop talking shit. It's like nice. This is this is the cutthroat world of Twitter going on.
Yeah. Like, and
the other one I had in mind that I couldn't find is it was simply like this U.S. Congresswoman saying like the history of China is 5,000 years of stealing and looting, and this Chen person as well said like, oh, you're just a lifetime bitch. It was great.
Yeah.
Controversy on using that language specifically, but honestly, she deserved it. He could have said much worse, and he did say that later.
He's throwing after Marsha Blackburn for being like openly racist.
What she said was openly racist, and like she's a representative of the U.S. Are you kidding me?
Yeah. So when they're just pointing out things like Black Lives Matter, and they're like, look at these horrible trolls, like how dare they like say Black Lives Matter? Like, it's kind of comical, really, when you think about it.
When have these U.S. Congress people ever meant that? I mean, I'm pretty sure they might have said it.
They didn't do anything materially to improve anyone's lives other than their own and those of the bourgeoisie that govern.
Like when
this
they
country.
say Black Lives Matter, they're just doing it for like Twitter reputation points. But when China says Black Lives Matter, they're directly calling out America.
Racism.
Yeah.
Systemic racism
is acting as opposed to saying things.
What I find interesting as well is that this is a very similar tactic where they used to call this thing whataboutism during the Cold War. As they'd say, the Soviet Union frequently would point out America's race problems, much as the Chinese ministers are pointing out today. and they would say it's whataboutism to deflect criticism of its own actions. And it's like, and they're trying to pull the same card again.
Yeah,
For
I'm pretty like if you want to get into details, like Emmett Till, who was a black child who was lynched in America. I'm pretty sure the USSR published uh, when he had the open casket. Like they published that in their news, and like
yeah, they did.
that'll be like whataboutism. Like, oh, the USSR is calling us out on our racism and our acts of violence. It's like, yeah, because you just violated human rights. Like,
But
that's not okay.
They say that they're just doing things just as bad. They're just pointing it out because we did it. Like that's how they use this. Like a lot of these people are like, oh, like they're just trying to look at what they did in Hong Kong. Look at how they like treated the protesters, like, and it's like,
and everything we say will be discredited by people who believe 1 million Uyghurs are detained in Xinjiang.
the Xinjiang denialism,
Which is absolutely absurd. There's no evidence for it. There's no, other than doctored like satellite images of like school buildings being like turned into quote unquote concentration camps. Other than like those fake doctored images, there's no evidence. Like, where is it?
You can have some critiques of what they're doing. That's fine.
Yeah, because there are re-education camps, and you could critique that.
Yes.
But like calling them concentration camps, that's just a lie.
That's
like,
a step too far. You're making up stuff at that point. You know, it's like you can be critical of all like, you know, anyone, right?
mm-hmm.
But to manufacture like outright lies and like repeat them is like very dangerous, and that's crossing a line.
And yeah, I just want to show this image. Like the National Endowment for Democracy just like admitted like their tactics here in Xinjiang specifically with this tweet. To further human rights and human dignity for all people in China, the National Endowment for Democracy has funded Uyghur groups since 2004. And what those groups are is probably like the East Turkestan movement, which is like a separatist movement. And that's kind of why this whole situation has taken place, is that there have been a series of terrorist attacks.
Yeah.
Indiscriminately like killing people in Xinjiang. So that's why there are education programs and like employment programs. Like people who don't have jobs are given jobs. Like I'm sure there could be critiques you could make, but like you can't critique a genocide that's not happening because there is none. If you understand what I mean there. I mean, sure, maybe you don't agree with the policies, but you have to critique the actual policies, not just make something up.
Yeah. What else is it's very frustrating is the way a lot of people are seeing like they're basically trying to leverage or put together. I just was reading something where it said leveraging, like the state-run aspect or whatever of like Russia, Venezuela, Iran, and China. Like I'm like reading this other article right now, and it's like they're decrying how Chinese diplomats like retweeted strongman Nicolas Maduro, like, and it's like these people are really are upset over like people like retweeting like Nicolas Maduro, and it's like,
oh, they were so. They must be so salty. I'm pretty sure they deleted his Twitter account for like a good few months, but it's back up now, and I recommend following him.
Yeah, he's a great follow. He has some really good tweets. These influencers are defined more by their reactionary opposition to Anglo-American foreign policy than their loyalty to that they serve as useful vectors to push everything from Xinjiang denialism, linked to Max Blumenthal of the Gray Zone, to Communist Party-friendly talking points on Hong Kong and Taiwan. In one salient example, an American filmmaker routinely amplified by Russian and Iranian state media produced a video for a Russian government they always say the Russian government funded or Chinese government funded.
You never see America state affiliated media. You never see that.
UK affiliated media.
Yeah. You don't see a UK affiliate. No, don't see that either.
Yeah, it's
Yeah, I'm surprised that PLK and Liliac are friends. I felt like they should be mortal enemies. But okay. I'm glad you guys are getting along.
Oh God. Everything about this is like so frustrating. So I guess we should touch on this another part of this whole debacle, which is the Australian soldier. Yes, our aforementioned contractor. Although, was he a contractor or was he a soldier?
Is this a specific war crime you're talking about here?
I'm talking about the image that was retweeted.
Oh,
Of
you mean the real
yes.
image. The real
Yes.
image that was completely meant to be taken seriously as this
Yeah, now
happened.
you know what I'm talking about.
Alright.
Yeah,
This image,
that
that's
one.
totally not an artistic work depicting a war crime.
As has been claimed by even government officials, this doctored photo. uh,
Yeah, so one of the most famous wolf warriors, Lin Zhao, tweeted this artistic piece of art by, what's their name? It's Wuha Qilin.
they do other
I'll write
great
that
art
down.
as well.
I'm gonna write their name down specifically because you're gonna remember this artist's name since they're
They do lots of great artwork.
they have a great collection of art.
Very politically conscious. Very. Now, yeah, one of the most famous retweeted this image, and
What it depicts is an Australian soldier committing a war crime. I mean, I don't want to describe. You could see for yourself. It's gruesome.
very, very
Um,
gruesome.
and it's not just made up. Like, I'm pretty sure there's
This actually happened.
record of this actually happening. Not just to one child. I think it was to two.
It was to more
Which
than
is
one.
important
Yeah.
to know. Is
It
this wasn't just one person. This isn't over exaggerating. This is under exaggerating the crimes.
Yeah, it's actually making it lighter than what actually happened. But people have flipped out about this. Australia itself has caused a huge mess, as they basically said, like, this is like an attack against us. Like, and this is after months and months of peddling like conspiracy theories about like COVID-19 like emerging from China.
All right, I know
Like,
PLK
in a way.
and Liliac are having fun, but like, I'll just delete both of your two messages. We don't need to debate about this here. That's. So I'm sorry. If you just can ignore each other, we can continue. It's fine. There's just some disagreements
Anyways.
in chat. It's okay.
The main thing is the Australian war crimes were pretty much exposed, as are many U.S. human rights. I mean, those are exposed all the time. But in this case specifically, it was the Australian military like having like this art, who people called a doctored photo or like Photoshop, and it's like it's clearly a piece of artwork, by the way, in case you're unable to see, which some people can't. That's totally fine.
I'm pretty sure
But-
like where you can find this artist didn't make it to this image, but most of his artwork does have like where do you find Wuha Chilin? You can see.
And yeah, in fact, there's actually another art piece.
Yeah,
they did
we'll
after this.
pull up the follow up to this because there was a whole
It
debacle.
connects. Yeah, this caused
And
the
this
whole.
is his second piece of art, where the Australian, diplomat, like I think the Prime Minister himself is like demanding apologies,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
the artists respond with this image. And yeah, another great piece of art really exposing the Western hypocrisy here.
Yeah.
We have the same exact flag covering bodies, completely kind of in the background compared to this child everyone's focused on. And that's what I like about this artist is he's already very humble. Like, he's not. I don't know if this is him specifically, but like, yeah, it's a young kid. It's like, why are they focused on him? Like he's like kind of stressing how unimportant he is in this whole situation here compared to the actual atrocities happening.
Yeah, I did check, and it was the Prime Minister who condemned this.
Is his name Scott Morrison, right? That's him?
Yep, Scott Morrison. Yeah, that's him.
Yeah. So
And
it's
it's
wild.
it's a pretty wild, yeah, pretty wild time. Oh God, just listen. I'm just reading this guy, and he's like, "This is a repugnant. Like, you deeply offended
And
every
this is the crazy
Australian."
thing, like apparently calling out the like Western powers, imperialist wars, and like endless wars. By the like, these wars have been
Non-stop.
endlessly waged for no reason other than their own interest.
Capital accumulation and imperialism.
And the minute you call them out, like, that's not allowed.
They
apparently.
flip out. You're
They
not allowed
flip
to
out.
criticize them. And they also extend that to people within its own borders as well, as they have for over a century. Like, you're like labeled a conspiracy theorist if you like point this stuff out. And there's like all sorts of other ways which they.
I think the actual person
yeah.
who I don't know the name. Wish I had the details here, but the actual person who
Yeah, as an
reported
architect,
these
you
war
continue to
crimes,
tell that-
the actual like Australian soldier, I think, who reported these war crimes to the public, was charged or something, and he's being charged right now.
Yeah, whistleblower.
Yeah. Oh yeah, here's another thing where it's like it's a doctor tweet of a murdering child. Like this is like Australia made a huge deal out of this, and they've completely ruined their relationship with their biggest trading partner. And it's not just
Well, for wine at least.
well for a lot of things.
I don't know, like, the nuances of Australian trade, but I know that the wine industry is hurting.
Yeah.
Like, there are 200% tariffs on Australian wine industry, which, like, basically prices them out of the market, with the exception of one wine seller who had ties to, who had basically, like, better than normal relation ties with the CCP.
Yeah.
And, yeah, they're being priced at a generous 140% tariff. So they're also hurting, but it's like maybe they won't go out of business.
The whistleblower's name is David McBride, so I'm pretty sure you can like donate to his like legal fund or something if you wanted to. David McBride. I mean, I'm not going to since I'm not Australian, but
Yeah.
sounds like he needs it. And I think he was also a soldier as well before he whistleblowed. But yeah,
Yeah.
support for them and whistleblowing in general against these Western war crimes.
Julian Assange, Edward, all these people who revealed all these.
Yeah, critical support
crimes.
to Comrade Sarah Palin.
Apparently-
What?
Yeah, you didn't hear about that?
Sarah
No,
Palin
no.
has a better stance on this than AOC.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So
Sarah
Sarah
Palin,
Palin's
like,
like
on-
is one strictly in Assange free or something. That's it, right? That's all.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, hey, like one issue at a time, right? One issue at a time.
I mean, I'm not sure that's the kind of person we're trying to win over
Oh
here.
my gosh, you guys!
But-
I'm willing to work with any, aura,
But the
type
point
of
Oh
is-
my God,
government.
Solo. Oh my God.
Solo does not represent the views of the entire channel. Isn't it? I'm just throwing that out
He's
there,
right
okay?
about Assange, though. There's no doubt about that.
Right. Critical support for
Yeah.
whistleblowers.
And it's interesting. Like I've seen recently, Tulsi Gabbard has been thrown under the leftist bus because I guess she has a bad take on trans issues, which I guess she's like socially
yeah,
conservative.
That sucks.
But
And
she's
that's-
clearly the most
India.
anti-imperialist candidate who ran for the DNC. So it's kind of
Yeah,
crazy
okay. If you
that she was
specify
the
that.
first. It's kind of crazy she was the first to be thrown under the bus. Like, you know, I guess I can't defend her for being socially conservative. Like,
No.
she is. But
You can't defend that.
canceling her, I think that's a mistake. I personally not for that. Since she's very adamantly more anti-imperialist than even Bernie Sanders was, in my opinion.
You know what's been also been very interesting is how there's been all this talk about how Joe Biden and his family are CPC shills essentially, and they're like puppets of like the Chinese government. And this has been a very frightening thing to listen to. As, I mean, for some very obvious reason, as it's
Well, besides Mike Gravel, you're right. Actually, the Gravel Institute is the real.
Marianne Williamson was the most, if we're going to be this pedantic about it.
All right, we don't need to be
Marianne
pedantic, but you're right.
Williamson.
I guess I stand. I'll just stress. I guess I stand Marianne Williamson and Mike Gravel more than Tulsi Gabbard. Just to be clear, that's the official stance, and we'll leave it at that because it's just pedantic at this point. It's just needlessly.
Right.
What is
So-
what is that thing that Posadas was talking about the other day? That was like, oh yeah, we're
The
Posadas.
The Montegris.
Montessorianism. Yeah, that's basically
something.
what. Look into that if you want to have a good time.
If you want a good time, look into these Montegrists or something who are like, instead of, they're not Posadas in the sense we need to wage a nuclear war to free the proletariat. It's like we need to use antimatter bombs and psychic warfare. Psychic.
That's
It's
pretty
the-
amazing.
Yeah.
Maybe they were in like the Metal Gear Solid world or something.
One of those crazy branches of
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like what Marianne Williamson's presidency could have been.
Exactly.
Just picture the ending of Evangelion, and that's Marianne Williamson in a nutshell.
Whatever you think about the end of Evangelion. Yeah. However, I did want to talk about how this whole narrative of Joe Biden being like a Chinese shill and like totally bought off, like, and like what a wrong-headed idea this
Oh
is.
my god. No, we're...
Are these
This is
from,
something
like,
that actually
the
needs to be
right-wing?
addressed. Oh no.
Yeah.
Are these like from the right wing cancer?
This is from the
or-
right wing.
Okay, then we don't need to like.
Yeah, we don't need to
But-
address that.
I don't want to indulge like QAnoners.
True.
I
True.
don't want to indulge. Like they're just pathetic. Like they're funny to watch,
They are.
but like
And it's
other
so
than
sad
that-
at this point because like their guy lost, and like they're just
They
scrambling
don't have anything else
to
but
justify what
okay.
to do next. They have nothing.
Okay, something important I want to point out here is that the funny thing about all them is, like, the policies that Trump enacted are basically just going to be carried out by Joe Biden.
Yeah.
As Biden said, there will be no change.
There's no
Like,
fundamental change.
nothing will fundamentally change. In fact,
It's
looking
like
at the
the-
budget and
I
the COVID
recently watched this one
response-
dime video. I recommend it if you just. It's just a quick video to go over the differences between the Democrats and Republicans. It was like why the billionaires prefer Democrats, and it literally just could be because Democrats protect the stock market better and
They
protect the
do.
interest of the billionaires better than Republicans. And
Yeah, because
there's more
Yeah.
analysis to be made in that
there's
video.
more
But like
to it.
when you boil it down to that, it's kind of that simple. It's like Democrats just protect global capitalism more efficiently, more effectively.
Yep. What was I about to say? Oh, right, yeah. Looking at even looking at how the COVID relief bill has been, like, first we got $1,200, then somehow it got negotiated down this time, to 600, and this is all we've got in the midst of a like devastating pandemic. Meanwhile, we're sending hundreds of millions of dollars to like Israel and countries like that, and it's like there's this whole like hoopla about how awesome it's going to be with like, oh, like the pandemics, we're gonna get through it, we have a cure, it's all good now, Trump's out of office. But really, we're no better off in any means. In fact,
we
going by
have
the
we have we have
$600,
we have
we're worse
PLK.
off.
Sorry to interrupt you, but we have PLK trying to like put forward their Gonzalo views here on the channel. I just like Lilic's reply. Sorry, I don't want to be poor and can't afford Genshin Impact. So, yeah.
Fair
yeah.
enough.
Yeah.
But really,
yeah,
looking at
I do not support Gonzalo. PLK, can you please stop Gonzalo posting? We're not talking about the Peruvian Communist Party, okay? We just aren't. That has nothing to do with this conversation.
No. So, anyways, what I was saying was like.
Did you see all the like stipulations like in that stimulus bill? Like apparently there's like $33 million to support Venezuela democracy groups or something.
Coup groups, essentially.
You could have had an extra $2,000, but instead you're supporting.
It's spent to overthrow
in Venezuela.
Nicolas Maduro. Yeah, that's where all our money is going.
And there was like some like 500 million to Israel or something.
Yeah,
crazy.
so it's like 500 million
Honestly,
to uphold.
I didn't
apartheid.
read this thing. I don't believe it. This is just what I heard hearsay from Twitter. But like, if it's true, are you kidding me?
Especially since all the citizens are getting it's like a
like I'm not dreaming, right? This is
$600,
right? This is in the bill.
No, you're not dreaming. That's the actual bill. Not only that, but they also put forward like even more money than under Trump's administration to fund a wall. Like.
All right, PLK, we understand that we're not respecting your arguments for Gonzalo, but it's not even relevant, so.
So, like, under Joe Biden, ironically enough, there will actually be more funds going to be constructing, like, border fences and whatnot. So, it's like...
we have Ninja saying, Lukashenko gang, who up? And like we said before, we think Lukashenko, like, critical support. We don't think he's a great socialist or anything, but I think we've been proven right that he is worthy of critical support in interest of defending Belarus against
imperialist.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And even then, he also has did a bunch of union stuff recently.
Yeah, apparently all the like private
they're required to have unions.
Are required to unionize or like
they'll be like
happens. They'll be
dismantled or like
nationalized or something. I don't know, disbanded, something.
There is some sort of threat. I can't exactly remember off the top of my head.
Clearly a threat where like clearly Lukashenko in recent terms like faced against the rest of the EU, his only option really, and I don't think Russia was helping him out that much either, but they're definitely another player in that regard. But like his only option is to side with the workers. So Lukashenko is a person who I don't think is great, but it's an actual person who has been forced left. Like he's been pushed left.
He has to compromise.
He had to compromise. And that's why we critically support him, is because he's someone who can compromise for the working class.
Do you think we'll be able to get Joe Biden?
Yeah.
Or
likewise? Do you think we can push Joe Biden left like Lukashenko is pushed left?
No.
The answer is no. No. We don't think that.
In fact, can we talk about this now? Is that entire idea of us somehow pushing Joe Biden to the left now? Because I think it's already been proven by his cabinet choices that he has no interest in that. Like Joe
I don't think it was ever like anything we like. I don't think that's like.
We knew, but like
Yeah, of
some
course.
other
So it's like,
people, there's a lot of other people who have
do
been.
we want to like toot our own horn and be like, yeah, man, told you so. Vashite's destroyed with like historical evidence that Biden is a right wing Democrat. It's historical.
What I find remarkable is just like the sorts of people he's managed to find to fill out his cabinet. It's like
They're all people who like started like the Iraq War.
yeah,
They're all
it's,
working with like Boeing and like the military
it's
industrial complex.
incredible. It's incredible how he found these people. It's like I'm going to create a suicide squad of the most heinous like uh the most heinous like rapacious like criminals, and like I'm going to put them in charge of everything. I do find that whole climate czar thing funny. Oh yeah, Anthony Blinken. That guy, like, wasn't he like the architect of like the Iraq War?
Yes.
Or something.
Yeah.
Yes, he was. So yeah, it's literally the people who
These aren't people you can push off. It's not possible.
No. Yeah, it's a sick joke. It truly is.
Should we talk about fun things like that Renegade cut video we watched on Wolf Warrior to bring it back to Wolf Warrior itself?
Yeah, let's bring it back.
Or is it even worth it? Is it even worth it?
No, let's bring it back. Let's bring it back. Because I think it's time for a fair critique of...
Yeah, we were being too soft on Wolf Warrior. We need an actual expert on China. Renegade Cut, who sorted Forbes.com in his bibliography
Forbes
to really lay it in on this movie that's nationalist propaganda. We really need it.
Yeah. It was... He frames this as like this like... I also said the movie was like scary, and he's like, this is showing like China's imperialism.
I think this movie was made right about the time when I think the Hong Kong protests were starting to kick off. So like, it's less about the film Wolf Warrior and more about like, let's use this as excuse to put like hashtag Hong Kong in the thing and posture as I'm progressive on the issues
like, dude,
of the times.
We have liberty here in America, don't you?
Yeah, that was one of the points. Is he said, well, the corporations and the military funds movies. Yeah, it was like the war movies in America, because Renegade Cut definitely has videos where he's critical of this. Like, that's most of his videos. This is probably his worst video by far.
It's his worst video. All his other videos are much better. Like,
yeah.
His Die Hard videos.
So like, he mentioned that like he's critical of these American action movies and other videos, but in this one he's saying, well, yeah, they're funded by the American military,
industry,
private corporations and stuff like that. But at least in the Constitution, we have the freedom to make anti-war movies, as like a selling point. Like
so
this is
weird when you don't have a war to protest though, like when you're China, and it's like, damn.
It's weird when you don't have to protest imperialist wars enacted by your own government.
Yeah, and he makes the point where it's like, at least we can protest against our overfunded like police forces that basically have the military might of like an actual army. He's like, well, at least we can protest against our overbloated defense like spending on like police and like military, as that's like a critique, because it's like, what has that protesting done to reduce
what results have been acquired by these anti-war movies in a sea of war movie propaganda
and cop propaganda as well, propaganda. And the main point that he makes is because China has state-run media, that it means that it has an even greater control over what kinds of like messages the movie sends.
He's trying to insinuate like a lot of things, like how nefarious this movie is, but when like there's nothing there, like he's trying to make the point that this movie is like somehow Han nationalist, and I don't think it is at all. Like there's no
Yeah, he
indication.
said it was like Chinese ethno-nationalist, and that really rubbed me the wrong way because, and his example as well, where it's like, what if they were making something to like wipe out white people, and it's like there's a very different historical context there.
Yeah, like we pointed out earlier, the context is the Opium Wars and other acts of colonialism like that, as opposed to the white genocide, which is just made up bullshit.
It's
Like,
for white supremacists to
Yeah.
like get angry about.
yeah, you can't equivocate those things.
No,
It-
it's
Okay,
completely
so we've all like
completely absent any historical context
Yeah,
for all
Zolo?
of this information.
we've all finished like the story of like the first two parts of Genshin Impact, right?
Yeah.
Does this have to do with
Oh
this?
wait,
Yeah,
no.
it does actually.
Soviet hasn't.
Yeah,
I
it
have
does.
though.
Yeah, I have.
Okay. So what I think it was is Zhang Liao was basically saying, okay, the Qixing is a mature governing communist party and leaving it to it. And then there's that part like where Mooncarver is like, but what if the Qixing becomes corrupt? Or like whatever. What if it stops
Yeah.
serving the interest of the people? So that got me thinking, is Mooncarver a Maoist? What do you guys think about that?
Well, we're gonna actually let's leave that for the end. But I think interesting discussion, and I want the audience's thoughts. I want your thoughts solo later, but we'll finish up with the Wolf Warrior stuff first, and then we could just have fun because when's this update coming out? Maybe an hour and a half. Who knows? It'll be fun.
True. Mooncarver, the Maoist moose. It just comes off so nice. Or he's
Yeah.
a deer, but whatever. Moose, there's more alliteration.
So this Renegade cut
Yeah.
video, I'm not joking, but it literally starts off with. Should I pull up the image? I guess I will. Let me take this off screen. This is the opening. Man, this video rubbed me the wrong way.
Yeah, it was really unpleasant.
Okay,
Like-
here is. Oh. There we go. No, that's not it. Hold on. Basically, what they're saying immediately off the bat is that they just hate the Chinese Communist Party. They don't hate the people, which is a bold-faced lie. I think I have that on
Well,
the
it's
screen.
more like just like it's just a common deflection to be like, oh, yeah, they're brainwashed. Pat,
So, the
Us
literal
Westerners,
opening
we
scene
know
of this
better.
Renegade Cut video is furthermore, China will be referred to as the People's Republic of China for short to distinguish itself from simply the land in general, culture in general, or the citizens in general. And, like, you can't distinguish those two things that way. You can't
Yeah,
separate.
it's not. You can't. Yeah.
If you say China is wrong, it might be misinterpreted as Chinese citizens or China as an abstract. The PRC is in the wrong. Oh my god. So, yeah. Yeah. I think we've debunked this enough. This, deflection enough.
I also want to point out that he says it's wrong of them to trade with the DPRK despite sanctions. Like, that's a pretty yikes say. Like, it's okay to let like the people in the DPRK starve because they're trading with China despite sanctions.
Well, it's weird because that's like what he cites for like being like, oh, this is proof that the DPRK does not have democracy.
Yes.
The world has sanctioned them, which would like, I don't know how that like relates to like you know,
What in reality it
elections.
means.
Elections.
What in reality, and he also calls them a rogue state. And a rogue state, in reality, any country that's like opposed to like, you know, this neoliberal capitalism that's like gripping the globe. Like, you know, anyone who speaks out against like U.S. hegemony, like that's kind of how they like refer to it, and that's why these countries get sanctioned, because they're against like U.S. and like imperialist interests.
Yeah, no one ever
Yeah,
said
I actually got so upset reading that again. It's like I read this before to prep for this live stream, but like it's just that bad. It's like, how do you separate these two things when the like the CPC is like has a massive approval rating? Like,
Yeah, it's like 90%.
a Harvard study said it's above 90%, and somehow we're supposed to separate these two things. Like suddenly, the PRC is its own separate entity, separate from the lands and the people,
who
and
support it, who actually support
separate
it,
from the
unlike
people who support it. And that's the only thing this is critiquing here.
Our free democratic country, where our government has a 9% approval rating. Like, take that. Like, that's true freedom and democracy. When a tiny minority controls all political power, and there's nothing else for anyone who isn't a capitalist. I think
whoa.
What?
Dude, I was just thinking about Mass Line and like how the Qixing practice it, bro.
Zolo really wants to move this to Genshin Impact, I see.
Dude, it was like it just hit me, man.
Alright, I mean,
I want to bring up the most offensive part.
The most offensive part of this Renegade Cut video. Okay.
The one from Forbes magazine quote.
Oh, jeez.
The reason Chinese corporations are in Africa is simple: to exploit the people and take their resources.
I got a screen cap of this. Let me pull it up. There we go. He literally quoted in this video a Forbes magazine quote on foreign policy.
Yep. And it's comparing, it's the same thing the European colonists did during mercantile times, except worse. They're trying to steal all its resources, and it's even worse than... And again, the Chinese industries that he's talking about for stuff like the Belt and Road Initiative are there to build infrastructure and like help them improve like the productive forces. It's not to like siphon off their resources. It's specifically a win-win economic deal.
Yeah, I haven't finished reading the full text. I recommend this book earlier, Dragon's Gift, the full story of China in Africa, which talks about Chinese aid to Africa. And it's important to note that China is a developing country, along with Africa, which is also developing as a continent. And China's applying the lessons they've learned developing their country, applying it to their aid programs.
They're trying to deal
they
with
want win-win. It makes sense that like China wants to benefit as well from their aid, but they also want Africa to win as well.
They obviously get something. It's clear from the way they talk about it that they get something out of it, but they also help the other developing countries develop their productive forces and infrastructure.
Western aid is much different. I think it's changed over time, but it's just important to note like it's based on like NGOs and
it's a lot of it is like tax write-offs and whatnot as well.
And, you know.
And like it's there to like
they've even like sent focus away from in like the medical area of aid. Like instead of training doctors in Africa, it's been more like shipping their own doctors. And it's like this isn't really helping because as soon as they leave, the crisis is still there.
Exactly.
Yes, trade is imperialism. Yes, apparently trading is not allowed. And that's the trend you'll notice around all of the issues on China is the West is always targeting key trade points. The Belt
And
and Road
the
Initiative.
thing, yeah.
Anywhere the Belt and Road Initiative is, anywhere Africa has relations and is trying to give aid, suddenly this is referred to as quote unquote debt trap diplomacy. And it's like
Yes.
they're just trying to isolate China.
For
It's
example,
very
when
clear.
Mike Pompeo called their deal with Sri Lanka, actually Renegade Cuts brings this up in his video as well.
Yeah,
Don't
explicitly, Sri Lanka was Renegade Cut's prime example of debt trap diplomacy in action.
Yeah, and the quote and term "debt trap diplomacy" came from an Indian nationalist, anti-China advocate, Brahma Chalani, in 2017.
Wait, do you guys remember when I was quoting that Maoist yesterday?
No.
No.
Who did you
No,
quote?
it was like remember they were talking about trade relations with the DPRK, and they were like, "Yeah, this is social imperialism." Like, and I was like, I don't know. I'll look it up.
Yeah.
What
In
did
terms
you
of Sri
learn from that
Lanka,
article,
China only
though?
holds 10% of Sri Lanka's foreign debt. Japan and the World Bank hold 11% each. The Asian Development Bank holds 14%, and the private sector holds 39%. This is not the narrative that the mainstream media and politicians espouse. They claim Sri Lanka has been inundated by Chinese debt and use the port as an example, which is itself misleading. Sri Lanka hasn't defaulted on its commitments and still maintains sovereignty over the port. China doesn't control it. Like, the whole point of this is because of its like position, like Sri Lanka specifically in the Indian Ocean, because Sri Lanka and India have like a very like neutral, like they're just trading partners. Like, also China's
Is
most
Sri
likely
Lanka
to
a socialist country? I don't think so.
No,
No,
it's
it's
not.
No.
It's not.
Didn't it have
No.
like a? Isn't that the country that had like what is it? Like a race conflict or
Yeah. Yes, there was, and it led to like basically a civil war.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that does not sound like a socialist country. I don't. Oh, officially, it's officially called the Democratic Socialist Republic of Sri Lanka, but I don't know about
It's
that.
a neutral
Is it
country.
ML? Is it ML?
Is it ML?
Yeah, like not even MLM. Sorry, we just be like that. Sorry, Nepal.
Yeah, I really don't know.
List.
It's in the name though. I don't know when that happens, but there's been history conflict there.
Well,
And what else did
honestly,
you learn from that article?
well, one thing, it's like Pakistan. It's a prominent like country involved in the Belt and Road Initiative, because the country is like, you know, it's a developing country. Like, they're trying to like improve the infrastructure. Like, they put billions of dollars in like improving their infrastructure. Oh, hold on. I'm reading something. Yeah, but basically Sri Lanka is like wants to be neutral and non-aligned, and the U.S. is pushing them to side against it. Yeah, most of the debt isn't even from China. Like, it's from like Japan and like the South Asia like banking system.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like,
It's
China tried to
it's
create
really silly.
industrial
It's
zone
like if China's really trying debt trap
to
diplomacy, why do we?
revitalize the economy.
Why can we see everywhere China is like, oh, that debt we'll just don't worry about it.
forgive it. Yeah.
We'll forgive it. We'll forgive it.
Whereas if
If you're really doing a
own-
debt trap diplomacy, wouldn't
Like
you
the
not
IMF.
like forgive debt? Wouldn't you just like pile it up on top? Like, this
You'd
doesn't
be
make
the
sense.
IMF if you did that.
Yeah, you would be. That's exactly
Who
how
would
the
be
IMF
that, though?
functions.
Besides the IMF.
Yeah. So, yeah, this Renegade Cut video was it was silly. It was silly. Do we want to talk about Genshin Impact and just have some fun now?
Sure.
Yeah,
I
man.
think we've covered we've covered the points
Yeah,
you wanted
let's
to bring
actually
up.
like do things people will want to talk about. Lists. Like, not that I don't find everything we talked about interesting, but like
It was
Razor.
interesting.
It
Let's
was,
talk
yeah.
about Razor.
I hope there's at least one person here who hasn't heard this before, since we're just like an anime channel most of the time.
Yeah.
Let's see, what is there? Korea. Damn, I cannot find it. Damn, I can find it if I just.
Oh, what does Renegade Cuts video have to do with Wolf Warrior? It didn't have anything to do with Wolf Warrior. He like analyzed one scene, I think, maybe. He at the end of the video he said, "Oh, look at how bad this CGI is of the wolves," and the other scene was, of course, the like final fight where the Ling Fang is like he has the "I will fight for China" badge on his uniform, and he's like, "Oh, that's pretty nationalist. That's a major plot point." So it really had nothing to do with the movie. That was like the only few points. The rest of it was
Okay. I
just
finally
about
found
posturing.
the discourse between
Yeah.
the Twitter Maoists. Okay. Posting to Maoist contact here. Okay. Maoist 1 be like, what's your take on the DPRK? Is Juche revisionist and or idealist? Red Democrat, if
Do we really want to talk about him right now?
The DPRK is a victim of Chinese neo-colonial exploitation. Neo-colonial exploitation, man. You gotta love this. And Juche is both revisionist and idealist, which, like, he might not be wrong about. But, like, I don't know. Maoists are just funny. It's just funny.
They're good comedians, that's for sure.
Yes.
It'd
And
be
you-
hilarious if just they stop taking themselves so seriously.
They walk along a fine razor's edge.
Oh my god.
So,
Dude.
you guys are both racer mates, so tell me about him.
Yes.
Dude, he is the most special boy you'll ever come across. He makes you feel like the most wonderful parent, and like
I've read
love-
I read
love-
Ninja the Saiyan name, but they said that the DPRK is a victim of U.S. imperialism. But I read it as, since it's in their name, I read the Saiyan is a victim of U.S. imperialism. The Saiyan race. Victim
Well,
of
the
US
Saiyans are
imperialism.
victims of genocide.
Didn't the planet blow up? So
Yeah,
That's
Frieza
true.
blew up their planet.
you're right.
They are victims.
You're absolutely
They-
right.
Yeah,
Didn't
Kachin
Jason
is
do a video
definitely
on them?
gonna be General Secretary.
If you
Son
think
of-
about it, the Saiyans, they're basically a representation of Korea, torn
Third
asunder
Yeah,
World
by
is actually the Saiyans.
capitalist powers.
Yes, the Saiyans are the true victims.
Well, I wouldn't say that, but like they can. rise up.
Well, now that you think about it, never mind. I take that back. They were
Never mind.
never mind. I forgot that they were like a warrior race who probably were doing their own invasions up until that point. I
Yes,
forgot
they
about
were.
that.
They were.
I forgot
my-
about that.
guess
I
that's
literally
right.
just thought about Frieza blowing up the planet. I'm sorry. I forgot that like the Saiyans were not good people. They just they're crazy.
I mean, it's funny either way. It's like... But anyways,
Let's see. Yeah, I think Mooncarver was, when he was talking about like the Chiefs saying not losing their way, was actually advocating self-criticism. Probably.
Yeah, that
I
was an
can't really
interesting.
know.
That was an interesting plot line because Liu is it's China, and one of the defining
It's-
features
yes.
was trade. There's specifically their trade route from
they were imperialist
the
route.
Stone Gate that goes to Mondstadt. Yes, their Silk Road.
Their Silk Imperial Road, which they used to plunder Mondstadt through the width of the use of trade.
Yes, absolutely horrifying. And yeah,
Yep. As for Razor,
and yeah, as the plot evolved, it was cool. We had a different era set in
Yeah, I think Child is actually a comrade, but he's hiding his power level.
Oh, really?
Oh yeah.
I'm
Def-
so interested to see what the Sarista's
oh
plotline's gonna
yeah.
look like. That's something else. Why
Definitely.
why
Child is
are
too he's got too good of a voice to be a bad guy. There's one thing I know from watching Frozen, it's that people with good voices always are good guys.
But isn't the bad guy in that? Doesn't he also sing?
Yeah, and he's got a great voice.
So couldn't he still be the bad guy
Could
then?
be. He could be. He could be.
Okay. All right then.
I mean, he is like with the Fatui, and the Fatui are like, man, they're like CIA. Yeah,
Yeah, it's
that's
just
another
really
thing.
interesting
Like,
how Genshin
yeah,
Impact works. Is since like
we're pretty sure the
having a
Fatui
Fatui
is like,
embassy is the equivalent of having a U.S. embassy in your country. It's just like a guarantee, like some
yeah,
is gonna
That
happen.
yeah, like
they'll try and like send in like forces
the theory
meddle into
is
your
that like
government.
the Catherines are like all NED agents, and they're trying to like establish quote democracy in the other nations, and we all know what quote democracy quote means.
Prince Vegeta
Yeah.
is a monarchist, so therefore no critical support for Prince Vegeta.
Dang. What about Maria from Attack on Titan though, or the one that's like
Oh, I
not you
saw a
Soviet,
spicy debate
you're
on r slash anti
not you
communism
Soviet because like
about Attack on Titan.
you have not finished Attack on Titan, so you cannot partake in this. So therefore, close your ears as we
All right.
discuss the greatest monarch in socialist anime history. I think it's Heaven, or whatever her name is. I'm pretty sure she's like a socialist at heart.
I
Even
think
if
so.
she
I
is
mean,
like
I'm really curious to see how season 4 unfolds. I have no idea, but
yeah.
the debates are going to be spicy in the leftist sphere in
Yeah,
Attack on
dude,
Titan
they're
because
talking
like
about imperialism straight up. If you're not
yeah,
watching it, you better be, man. It's good shit. It's
but
good shit. Don't let
didn't
me
get rid of
lie.
their monarch. In fact, they reappointed her after their military coup. It's really interesting. So it's fascinating. I'm curious to see how
Yeah.
it pans out.
Yeah, Soviet, you're welcome to come back.
All right then.
Man, I'm telling you guys, like Razor, he is gonna be like in Smash. I think he's gonna be in Smash. I think he's gonna
So
get.
that's your
Get
prediction for
Razer in
2021.
Smash.
That's predictions for
That's a
2021.
bold
Razor and
stance to
Smash.
take, but
It's a bold move, God, and let's see how it lays out for him. God damn it. uh,
could happen.
anyways, is there any closing thoughts we wanted to go on? So we're coming to about 2 hours.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
I was wanting to have fun, but then I realized I can't even stream Genshin Impact. The update's not out, and
Yeah.
I'm tired. So
True.
thanks for joining us, everyone.
Yeah.
Any
thank you.
last thoughts, everybody?
Yeah,
Yeah.
write any
Everyone-
messages if you want to ask us any last things or say.
Yes,
Yeah.
we're aware of the situation with the police in mainland China, them not having guns.
Oh yeah.
Is
Wouldn't that be
1.2 out?
interesting?
I think it's almost out, maybe.
Imagine
could
if
still
the
be
American
millions.
police didn't have guns.
Imagine.
Can't even think
No.
of that. Couldn't even think of that, right? It's hard to even think about.
Yeah, I mean, people with guns, they're scary. Like even if they're nice people, like I'm like, bro.
They could be. Oh, actually, you wanna? I'll pull up the Wolf Warrior thing again, where they're talking about it.
What exactly was it? Was it a tweet or was it part of Wolf Warrior, the movie?
It was the CGTN article, where they were like they kind of finished on that note. Remember? Where they're like, unofficial defenders of China's interests. Not just Chinese citizens and their diaspora, but any international supporter who sympathizes with the country's win-win version of peacefully building a community with a shared future for mankind, and are educated about what they believe in. Like the West lost its narrative monopoly in mainstream and social media, and that's why they're trying to defame their opponents as wolf warriors.
You know, honestly, I just don't even understand the strategy there, because it's like when I'm like,
They're actually losing. Like they're making these tweets gain more views,
Traction.
more traction.
Like
when Scott Morrison brings up this art and retweets it, more people are exposed to Australia's war crimes. Like, this is a losing strategy, and they should continue doing it.
Yeah, critical support to bad
Twitter usage. Critical support to them not knowing how to use Twitter.
Yeah, and just putting the message out there. It's really helping the cause and exposing who the true war criminals and keepers of defenders of imperialism truly are, and what they represent and what they seek to do to the rest of the world. Meanwhile, we have
1.2 I think is out. I think it is out.
It is out. Well,
all right.
we have
everybody
priorities. We have priorities elsewhere.
Ways and fight against the people who are pushing all these lies and propaganda, trying to shut down the truth.
All right. Good night,
Keep
everybody.
Us all chained. Good night, everyone. It's been a fun stream.